Microsoft wins approval for the $69 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard.
Yes.
This is something that we talked about for a while.
Yes.
I guess it's finally approved. What will this do for both companies? What will this do for the stock of Microsoft? And is this a good play for a lot of money? $69 billion. Activision Blizzard. We're talking about Activision Blizzard.
Activision Blizzard, if you have a gaming console, you will have probably purchased one of their games, Call of Duty probably being the biggest one. One of the biggest ones in the world. The world of was it Minecraft? They also are part of. But Active is one of these companies that historically hasn't had a system, but they just have the games to put out. This merger makes sense. So the issue here was, are they taking competition out of the space, right? And so when you look at from the the EU, and you look from the FTC, that was the investigation. It came back in Microsoft's favor, which is good. This is good news for the brand. So one of the areas that the regulators questioned was if Activision Games just being on Microsoft makes it a complete U.S. giant and knocks out competitors such as Sony and other streaming platforms. They ruled that it doesn't. And actually, one of the benefits that it does do is that it allows people who have purchased games from a streaming standpoint to now have the game in the cloud. Yeah. So if I have Call of Duty, right, and I come to your house and you don't have Call of Duty, we can't play it. But if I come over, it's in my cloud, I can now play on your system, which is like revolutionary in the gaming world, right? Because rather than buying it because I'm over your house or I'm out the country and I don't have my console, I have to buy the game again. It now becomes a cloud space. And does Microsoft have that infrastructure already in place? Absolutely. So that's a plus for them in the business side. The only part of it that's interesting is that, yes, that's the European judgment. They still have to get past the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission here in the United States. They still have to answer to Sony. And so this is a win from the European standpoint, but they still have some battles to face here in America.
Yeah, I agree. But I think this is a good sign that this will swing in their favor. And normally when people are worried about monopolies being formed, usually it is the consumer that is raising an issue about the monopolies, or they're not receiving like fair enough treatment. But as far as what it does for the value of Microsoft, it makes them even bigger. If we look over the last 6 months, they have returned 27.76%. Over the last 5 years, 217%. All time is 309,000% return. This is definitely over the next few years pushing to that $400 mark. Profit margins in Microsoft are already great. This is at 36%, which is amazing for a $1 trillion company. And it gives them more market share in the space that is needed. Like if you look, most people may not love business, right? But once you get hooked into like those video games, Call of Duty, they have Crash Bandicoot, I think they have one of Tony Hawk's games. People are on that platform for hours. So look at the kind of ads that you can even deploy there, and that mind share and time share that you have a user there. Amazing acquisition. If they get this passed through the United States, it would definitely push them eventually past $400. And it's probably the second greatest company publicly traded of all time. And I can argue if Ballmer wouldn't have ran Microsoft for those 10 years, there probably will be no $1 trillion market cap for Apple. That's probably, I think from the time he ran it to the time he left, I think the stock was down 70% over a decade. Microsoft is doing an incredible job.
Gaming culture is bigger than ever. And the Call of Duty has been, one of the top games, if not the top game, for over a decade. So the Xbox, Microsoft's gaming console, to integrate that completely with one of the top games, I think is beneficial for sure. I guess the risk would be if another game comes out that becomes bigger than that next year.
Yeah, the other part of it is that, and this is from a Sony standpoint, right? If Activision is now a part of Microsoft, or they've merged, their worry was, hey, they'll make it exclusive for Xbox.
Yeah,
right? That's a huge concern, right? Because now you're losing out on millions of gamers that won't be able to play it on your console. From everything they said, that they're not looking to do that, right? Because that loses money. You don't want to lose money, so you keep it open. But another thing that works in their favor when we talk about the European Commission, they've had judgments in the past, and every judgment that they've had, the United States, when it had to have its judgment, has kind of leaned in the same favor. In the same favor. So that works for the deal getting done, which is great for Microsoft and great for gaming. Like I said, that's revolutionary, right? If I don't have to repurchase a game because I'm not with my console, that's a game changer. Now you're really using technology to your advantage. Like that cloud service piece is really, really important. And that adds to the expansion of that vertical, right? Because now, how much is the cloud service going to cost you if you can now store all your games up there?
Azure is going to grow as a result tremendously, because we know kids are going to eat up a bunch of playing time and a bunch of space on there anyway. So when we're looking at so they have, if I came to you and said, hey, Tesla is now going to run the office space, they're going to put Call of Duty in the car, and they have a cloud service, everyone will be like, Tesla's going to 1,000. That iteration that I just created for you is Microsoft's.
Yeah, it's like that quiet. Even like now, like when we're sending like files through Google, it's like, all right, well, you can pay $10.99 for 200 gigs of storage. Well, you get enough people to pay $9.99 for 200 gigs of storage. I mean, one game is like 70 gigs of storage.
Yes.
Not to include the add-ons that come with it. You know what I mean? The downloadable content that you get on top of it, on top of saving inside of the game. And so you can imagine when they have a package where it's like, yeah, we're saving, there's going to be a terabyte of storage. And that'll be the bare minimum. And now that becomes $19.99. Just think about what that does to the vertical of Azure.
Yeah, the enterprise value of Microsoft is currently at 2.08 trillion. Revenues at 207 billion. Like, this is just a monster of a company. And another great point to look at is if you look at institutional ownership, so that's pension funds, mutual funds, et cetera, 72% ownership is there. This is almost a perfect company and shows no signs of slowing down. I know sometimes the audience get tired of me talking about Apple and Microsoft and 2Tech 2 Index, but $1 trillion company in the last 3 months is up 15%. So almost double the S&P, up 8% in a month. And over the last 5 years is up 200%. Like, that's an easy win while most things are down. And they continue to innovate and get better over time.
Yeah, a lot of analysts have raised the price on it for the end of the year to 320 to 325. So it's currently sitting at like 310, which is optimistic, right? You're talking almost a $15 increase over the next 6 months.
Yeah.
You take
it. I agree. I have it at 410 by middle of next year. Continue to hold for the long term. And it's crazy because earlier in the year it was at 224? It's a hell of a return for one of the safest companies in the world. Like, especially in a recession. I know they keep delaying saying that we're in a recession, right? We got to talk about your boy later, Big T. He went on CNN and dominated, by the way. But in a recession, things tend to condense. And if they can get this one to go through while they're making their iterations on AI, I'm interested to see what kind of data they pull. To your point, Rashad, like, what if another game comes out? Because Fortnite really is like the kids' version of Call of Duty. But I'm wondering what all that data in the cloud, if they begin to build games and buy a developer to make games off the data that they're collecting in the cloud once they have Activision underneath their wing.
Nintendo just did that, which is crazy.
Yep.
They literally took the feedback and the data from Zelda, the what's it called? The Breath of the Wild, I think it's called.
Yeah.
So they just released part 2, and again got a perfect 10 out of 10 rating. But all they did was they took the data and the feedback from the first game. They said, like, this is a 10 out of 10. How can we improve?
Yeah.
And they implemented it to the new one.
Well played.
My graduates from my school being Forbes, bag drop.
Bag drop.
A mic drop, bag drop.
Bag drop.